Color has the amazing ability to grab the audience's attention, foreshadow information, and control or influence emotion consciously and subliminally. Directors and cinematographers are consciously including or avoiding specific colors to deepen narratives while simultaneously enhancing a picture's overall quality and beauty. Every individual shot of a film is planned out meticulously by the director, cinematographer, and art department in order to tell a story. Even in the silent era of movies, filmmakers still wanted to take advantage of the psychological effect color had over their audience. But before the advent of Technicolor film, technology only allowed for cameras to capture images in black and white. So, filmmakers began taking a black and white film and dyeing the emulsion to tint the overall color. But filmmakers didn't have to work within the limitations of black and white for much longer, since in 1929 they were finally liberated from their monochrome world with the advent of Technicolor. Even though the process of 3-strip Technicolor can be traced back as early as 1929, this exciting new technology was quickly cut short when the Great Depression took its toll on the movie industry and Hollywood began to cut back on the expensive process that made colored film possible in the first place. But once the Great Depression blew over, a cinematic revolution erupted as color exploded onto the big screen, launching Hollywood into its first golden age. Since then, a century of filmmakers have engaged with it and harnessed this exciting and vibrant method of storytelling, after spending years being bound to a monochrome chain. In recent times, the chromatic volume has been cranked up to the max, becoming a key device used for semiotics, expression, and entertainment. Stanley Kubrick was a master manipulator thanks to his obsession with color. His most notable and dominant use of color is in his science fiction masterpiece, 2001: A Space Odyssey. Kubrick used red in association with the AI system HAL, the film's antagonist.
I'm sorry, Dave. I'm afraid I can't do that.
While inside HAL's processor core, Dave slowly begins to deactivate the computer. This otherwise boring room is awash in a saturated red. The inescapable feeling of impending dread wouldn't be so present in the scene if it wasn't for Kubrick's use of that color. On the other side of the spectrum, red can also be used to invoke the feeling of love and passion. Spike Jonze's Her is a perfect example of how a film's entire meaning can be told non-verbally through the use of color. The walls, clothes, computer screens are all red. The movie's hero, Theodore, wears bright red, blue, yellow, and white shirts throughout the film to communicate his emotional state. The entire film is a perfect example of why color theory matters in storytelling. Outside of their cultural connotations, colors can be used in association with something entirely new if a filmmaker chooses to do so, as part of that film's individual vocabulary. In Blade Runner 2049, Denis Villeneuve and Roger Deakins used the color yellow to represent truth.
Myself, I wanted to use color in a narrative way like I never did before. I was using color for emotions, for impact. I knew that I would be able to use, like, for instance, the color yellow as a meaning for me, and it's like a trend that you can follow in the movie.
During Officer K's investigation, the color yellow appears on screen whenever K is getting closer to uncovering the truth. It first appears in Sapper's house, then the flower K picks up, the light in Joshi's office, then at Walls' headquarters, then Joy's jacket when they find out the identical twins are fake, and then coming to a climax in the Las Vegas scenes where K finds Deckard. Even though this use of color might seem unnecessary at first, it's this type of attention to detail that separates an average filmmaker from a much more mature and masterful one. One of our personal favorite uses of color in film is in Paul Thomas Anderson's There Will Be Blood. Almost the entirety of the film uses a dirty beige color scheme, except one particular scene that stands out from the rest. Suddenly, the dirty color palette is dropped in favor of the scene saturated in blue. This scene is a sudden burst of freshness, but rather than enjoying the peace and solitude, Plainview has a moment of realization. Being away from his oil business and being able to relax finally makes him realize what he's lost and how alone he actually is. Suddenly, this moment of solitude begins to feel cold, and the blue we are introduced to takes on a new meaning. But even with the advent of color in film, some filmmakers still choose to shoot in black and white, because sometimes the absence of color is what's right for that particular story. Shooting a film in black and white can give a sense of seriousness and realism. A film that makes great use of this is Martin Scorsese's Raging Bull. Scorsese and his DP Michael Chapman wanted to shoot Raging Bull in black and white to pay homage to Italian neorealist films such as Rome Open City and Bicycle Thieves. The choice of shooting Raging Bull in black and white was also inspired by Time magazine's photojournalism of the 1940s and 50s when the film is set. Shooting the film this way adds a layer of realism and authenticity, giving the scenes outside the boxing ring so much more emotional impact and making the film feel more like a documentary than a narrative film. The importance and brilliance of color in film cannot be stressed enough. Although colored film is now a normality, its power and potential should not be taken for granted. Thanks for watching the video and be sure to subscribe. If you enjoyed it and want to see more content like this, consider supporting us over on Patreon. It really helps support and grow this channel, and you can get exclusive access to behind the scenes content, early access to videos, and you'll be able to vote on what video we release next.